Let me start by saying this. I'm not the kind of person who goes looking for trouble. Really, I'm not. But when you move into a neighborhood governed by an HOA with more rules than sense, and then Karen shows up, well, let's just say patience has its limits. It all started on a Tuesday afternoon. I was unpacking boxes from our recent move, trying to make the house feel like home. Willow Creek seemed perfect. Quiet streets, friendly neighbors, at least at first glance, and those charming white picket fences everyone dreams about. The air smelled fresh, and birds chirped cheerfully in the trees. It felt like stepping into one of those cozy TV shows where nothing ever goes wrong. Or so I thought. As I carried a box of kitchenware to the counter, something outside caught my eye through the window. There it was, Karen's car, parked smack dab in my driveway. At first, I thought it was a mistake. Maybe she didn't realize whose driveway it was, or got confused because her own garage was full. You know how it is. You give people the benefit of the doubt. So I walked outside, ready to politely explain that she might want to park elsewhere. That's when I met Karen. "Oh, hi," she chirped, stepping out of her SUV like she owned the place. She wore oversized sunglasses perched on top of her head and carried a yoga mat under one arm. "I hope you don't mind. I needed somewhere close to unload these groceries. Your driveway was empty anyway." "Empty?" "Yes. Available?" "Absolutely not." I forced a smile and said, "Actually, I do mind. This is private property." She laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound, and waved me off. "Relax. I'll only be a minute." And with that, she sashayed into her house without another word. I stood there, staring at the spot where her car had been, feeling a mix of confusion and irritation. Who parks in someone else's driveway without asking? Was this some strange initiation ritual for new residents? Or was Karen simply testing boundaries to see what she could get away with? The next day, I decided to keep an eye on things. Sure enough, around noon, Karen's car reappeared in my driveway. This time, I marched straight over to her house and knocked firmly on the door. When she answered, she looked genuinely surprised, as if she'd forgotten where her car was parked. "Oh dear," she said, feigning concern. "I must have gotten turned around. I'll move it right away." But she didn't. Her car stayed there for hours, as if daring me to do something about it. By evening, I was fuming. How could someone act so entitled? Didn't she understand basic respect for other people's space? That night, I lay awake, replaying the day's events in my mind. Part of me wanted to let it slide, to avoid confrontation and keep the peace, but another part of me knew that ignoring the problem would only make it worse. If I didn't stand up for myself now, what message would that send? Would Karen keep pushing until she crossed even more lines? Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a much bigger battle, one that would test my patience, my resolve, and my faith in the idea of community. One incident could have been written off as a harmless misunderstanding. 2. A coincidence. 3. A pattern. By Friday, Karen had parked in my driveway twice more. Each time, I knocked on her door to remind her that her actions were unacceptable. Each time, she gave me some excuse wrapped in condescension. "Oh, silly me," or "didn't think you'd care so much." Her tone made it clear she didn't take me seriously. It was as if she viewed my complaints as nothing more than a minor inconvenience, something to brush aside with a laugh and a wave of her hand. But here's the thing about Karen. You can tell she thrives on pushing boundaries. Every conversation left me feeling smaller, angrier, and increasingly frustrated. It wasn't just the inconvenience, it was the blatant disrespect. My space, my rules, or so I thought. Then came Monday morning. I woke up early, brewed a cup of coffee, and stepped onto the porch to enjoy the crisp autumn air. That's when I saw it again. Karen's car, gleaming innocently in my driveway like it belonged there. The sight of it made my blood boil. How could she keep doing this, knowing how upset it made me? Did she think I wouldn't notice? Or worse, Did she think I wouldn't fight back? Enough was enough. I called the towing company before I could talk myself out of it. The operator assured me they'd send someone within the hour. While waiting, I paced back and forth inside, rehearsing what I'd say if Karen confronted me. Would she scream, cry, call the cops? Part of me hoped she would. It felt like validation for the stress she'd caused. Sure enough, the tow truck arrived, and within minutes, Karen's precious SUV was hitched and hauled away. I watched from behind the curtains, heart racing, half expecting her to burst through my door demanding answers. But nothing happened. Silence. For the rest of the day, I kept glancing out the window, waiting for retaliation. None came. In fact, Karen acted completely normal the next time I saw her, at least outwardly. She smiled sweetly, asked how I was settling in, and even complimented my flower beds. If I didn't know better, I'd have thought she'd forgotten the whole ordeal. But I knew better. The calm after the storm only lasted a few days. On Wednesday evening, I returned home from running errands to find her car parked in my driveway yet again. This time, though, something felt different. It wasn't just negligence anymore. It felt deliberate. Like she was sending a message. Asterisk, you may have won the last round, but I'm not done, asterisk. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. What was I supposed to do now? Calling the towing company again seemed excessive, but letting it slide wasn't an option either. I decided to confront her directly, hoping to put an end to this once and for all. When I knocked on her door, she answered almost immediately. Her expression shifted from surprise to annoyance the moment she saw me. "What is it now?" she asked, crossing her arms over her chest. "Your car is in my driveway," I said firmly, meeting her gaze. Again. She rolled her eyes dramatically. "Oh please, it's not a big deal. You're making such a fuss over nothing." "It is a big deal," I shot back, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. "This is private property. You can't just park here whenever you feel like it." Karen tilted her head, studying me as if deciding whether to argue further. Finally, she shrugged. "Fine. Whatever. I'll move it." But instead of walking to her car, she closed the door in my face. I stood there for a moment, staring at the wood grain, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. Was this really happening? Had she no shame? No sense of respect for anyone else's boundaries? That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't stop thinking about the situation. Why was Karen behaving this way? Was it boredom? Spite? Or maybe she genuinely believed the rules didn't apply to her. Whatever the reason, one thing was clear. She wasn't going to stop unless I forced her hand. And forcing her hand was exactly what I planned to do. 2 weeks had passed since the first tow, and I hoped, that Karen might finally get the message. Maybe she'd realize how unreasonable she was being and stop testing my patience. But as it turned out, Karen wasn't the type to back down. If anything, she doubled down. It happened again on a chilly Friday morning. I woke up early, wrapped myself in a cozy sweater, and stepped outside with a mug of steaming coffee. The sun hadn't fully risen yet, casting long shadows across the street. For a brief moment, everything seemed peaceful. And then I saw it. Karen's car, gleaming under the soft light of dawn, parked squarely in my driveway. This time, there was no mistaking her intent. It wasn't an accident or a momentary lapse in judgment. She knew exactly what she was doing. Her car sat there like a silent challenge, daring me to make the next move. My hands tightened around my coffee mug as frustration bubbled inside me. I tried reasoning with her again, knocking on her door late that evening after work. When she answered, she looked genuinely surprised, as if she'd forgotten where her car was parked. "Oh dear," she said, feigning concern. "I must have gotten turned around. I'll move it right away." But she didn't. Instead, she ignored me for the rest of the night. By morning, her car was still there, mocking me silently. That's when I lost it. Again. This time, I didn't hesitate. I called the towing company immediately, making sure to request a note be left on her windshield, explaining why her vehicle had been removed. Let her stew over that while retrieving her car from the impound lot. When she finally appeared at my doorstep later that evening, her expression told me everything I needed to know. Gone was the fox sweetness. In its place stood fury. "You had no right to do that," she snapped, jabbing a finger in my direction. "You're being petty and unreasonable." Unreasonable. I shot back, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. "You parked in my driveway. Not once, not twice, but 3 times now. What part of private property don't you understand?" Our argument escalated quickly, drawing curious glances from other neighbors. Some even lingered on their porches, eager to witness the drama unfold. For a brief moment, I wondered if they were rooting for me or against me. Karen's face turned red as she leaned closer, her voice sharp and cutting. "You're making a mountain out of a molehill. Everyone parks in driveways sometimes. Why are you so obsessed with this?" "Because it's my asterisk driveway," I exclaimed, throwing my hands up in exasperation. "If I let you get away with this, what's next? Are you going to start using my mailbox, walking through my backyard like it's your own personal shortcut?" She scoffed, rolling her eyes dramatically. "You're ridiculous." "No," I said firmly, stepping closer until we were nearly nose to nose. "What's ridiculous is you thinking you can treat other people's property however you want without consequences." For a split second, I thought she might lunge at me. Her fists clenched, and her jaw tightened as if she were holding herself back. Then, just as suddenly, she relaxed, forcing a tight smile. "Fine. Have it your way. But this isn't over." With that, she spun on her heel and stormed back into her house, slamming the door behind her. I stood there for a moment, breathing heavily, my heart pounding in my chest. Had I gone too far? Was I the one being unreasonable? Doubt crept in, but I pushed it aside. No matter how hard Karen tried to twist things, I knew I was in the right. She had crossed a line, one that shouldn't have been crossed in the first place. Later that night, as I lay in bed replaying the day's events, I couldn't shake the feeling that this battle was far from over. Karen wasn't the kind of person to admit defeat easily. If anything, she'd find new ways to push my buttons, to test how far she could go before I cracked. And deep down, I knew I couldn't let her win. Of course, Karen couldn't let things lie. Within days, I received a letter from the HOA summoning me to an emergency meeting. Apparently, Karen had filed a formal complaint, accusing me of harassment and creating discord in the community. The irony almost made me laugh. Almost. Walking into the HOA office felt like stepping into a courtroom. Linda Harper presided over the gathering, flanked by 2 board members who looked equally uncomfortable. Karen sat across from me, arms crossed, lips pursed in smug satisfaction. She'd clearly come prepared to play the victim. "This isn't about parking," Linda began, leveling her steely gaze at me. "It's about maintaining harmony in Willow Creek." Harmony? Was she serious? Karen had invaded my space repeatedly, disregarded my requests, and now expected me to roll over and apologize. Not happening. "I've bent over backward to resolve this peacefully," I said, keeping my tone steady. "But Karen refuses to respect my property. What am I supposed to do? Let her take advantage indefinitely?" Karen rolled her eyes dramatically. "She's exaggerating. All I did was park in her driveway a couple of times." "Big deal." "A couple of times," I echoed incredulously. "Try 5. Linda held up a hand, silencing us both. "We'll review the situation and issue a ruling shortly." As we left the meeting, Karen smirked at me. "Good luck," she whispered venomously. The tension didn't end there. Over the next few days, Karen seemed determined to make my life miserable. Her car reappeared in my driveway almost daily, as if she were daring me to tow it again. Each time, I called the towing company without hesitation. By the 3rd tow, even the operator recognized my voice when I called. "Back again," he joked lightly. I forced a laugh, but inside, I was exhausted. What bothered me most wasn't just the constant battle. It was how Karen's behavior started affecting other parts of my life. Neighbors began avoiding me, whispering behind my back whenever I passed by. Some avoided eye contact altogether, while others gave me pitying looks. It was as if they thought *I* was the problem, not Karen. One afternoon, as I'd watered the plants in my front yard, Mrs. Thompson from across the street approached me cautiously. She was a sweet older woman who always greeted me warmly before all this drama began. Now she hesitated before speaking, her words careful and measured. "Look, dear," she said softly, glancing around to ensure no one else was listening. "I know you're upset, and maybe you have every right to be. But people are talking, saying you're being too aggressive. Maybe it's time to let it go." Her words stung more than I cared to admit. "Let it go," I repeated, my voice trembling slightly. "Mrs. Thompson, would you let someone treat your home the way Karen treats mine? Would you sit back and do nothing?" She sighed, shaking her head. "I'm not saying what she's doing is right, but sometimes picking your battles is the smart thing to do." Her advice lingered in my mind long after she walked away. Was I making a mountain out of a molehill, as Karen claimed, or was I standing up for something important, something worth fighting for? That night, Ryan tried to reason with me. "Maybe we should just let it slide," he suggested gently, sitting beside me on the couch. "Is this fight really worth all the stress?" "It's not about the driveway anymore," I replied firmly. "It's about standing up for myself. If I give in now, what's stopping her, or anyone else, from walking all over us?" Ryan didn't argue further, but I could see the worry etched on his face. He wanted peace, normalcy. So did I. But how could I achieve that without sacrificing my dignity? The next morning, I woke up feeling heavy, burdened by the weight of everything that had happened. As I sipped my coffee, staring out the window, I noticed Karen's car parked in her own driveway for once. For a fleeting moment, I allowed myself to hope that maybe, just maybe, she'd finally gotten the message. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Things only got worse after that. If Karen had been difficult before, she became downright hostile afterward. Her car reappeared in my driveway regularly, sometimes multiple times a week. Each time, I called the towing company, refusing to back down. We were locked in a bizarre game of chicken, neither willing to concede. But Karen didn't stop there. One morning, I discovered trash bags dumped at the edge of my lawn. They weren't mine. They were filled with fast food wrappers, soda cans, and other random junk. At first, I thought it might be a mix-up from the garbage collectors, but something about the placement felt deliberate. The bags sat neatly lined up along my driveway, as if someone wanted me to notice them right away. I snapped a picture and sent it to Ryan, who was at work. "What do you think?" I texted him. His response came quickly. "Probably her." I didn't need proof. It was written all over this act. Karen wasn't just retaliating. She was escalating. And honestly, it scared me. What would she do next? Would she start vandalizing my property? Or worse, try to turn more neighbors against me? The breaking point came one evening when I walked outside to find one of my car tires slashed. The air hissed out slowly as I stared at the jagged cut, disbelief washing over me. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone to call roadside assistance. Who does something like this? Sure, Karen and I had our differences, but this felt personal, vicious even. By now, whispers spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Some neighbors sympathized with me, agreeing that Karen's behavior was outrageous. Others sided with her, claiming I was being too harsh or dramatic. It felt like living in two separate worlds, one where people saw me as a victim, and another where I was painted as the villain. Even the HOA seemed unsure how to handle the situation. Linda Harper called another meeting, this time inviting both of us to discuss a resolution. But instead of calming tensions, the meeting devolved into another heated argument. Karen accused me of ruining her reputation, while I pointed out her repeated violations of basic decency. By the end, Linda looked frazzled, pinching the bridge of her nose as if hoping we'd disappear. "You're both adults," she said finally, her voice firm but tired. "Figure this out yourselves, or we'll have no choice but to involve legal action." Legal action. The idea sent a chill down my spine. As much as I wanted justice, dragging this mess into court sounded exhausting and expensive. Still, I couldn't let Karen win. Giving in would mean surrendering not just my driveway, but also my dignity. That night, I laid awake, staring at the ceiling. Every sound outside made me jump. Was Karen lurking somewhere, ready to strike again? Part of me wished I could pack up and leave Willow Creek altogether, but running away wouldn't solve anything. This wasn't just about Karen anymore. It was about standing up for myself, no matter how hard it got. The next day, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I installed security cameras around my house, positioning them to cover every angle of my driveway and yard. If Karen, or anyone else, tried anything funny, I'd have evidence. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of control returning. Maybe I couldn't stop her antics entirely, but at least I could protect myself. As I adjusted the final camera, I caught sight of Karen peeking out from behind her curtains. She glared at me, her expression unreadable. Was she angry, scared, or simply plotting her next move? Whatever it was, I braced myself for what came next. Because one thing was certain, Karen wasn't done. Not yet. Finally, the HOA issued their ruling. Karen was officially banned from parking in any driveway except her own. Violations would result in fines and potential legal action if necessary. On paper, it sounded like a victory, but in reality, it only deepened the divide between us. Karen didn't take the ruling well. At first, she tried to ignore it altogether. Her car reappeared in my driveway within days, as if daring me, or the HOA, to do something about it. When I called the towing company yet again, she retaliated by filing another complaint, this time accusing me of harassment. The back and forth felt endless, like being stuck in a loop I couldn't escape. But then something shifted. One evening, as I watered my plants on the porch, I noticed Karen sitting on her front steps, staring off into the distance. She looked different, tired. For once, there was no smug smirk or defiant glare, just a woman who seemed weighed down by everything that had happened. Curiosity got the better of me. Against my better judgment, I walked over. "Hey," I said cautiously, keeping my tone neutral. She glanced up, surprised to see me. "What do you want?" Her voice lacked its usual bite, replaced by something softer, almost resigned. I hesitated, unsure how to phrase what I wanted to say. I wanted to see if we could talk, maybe figure out a way to move past all this. Karen stared at me for a moment, then sighed heavily. "You really don't get it, do you?" she muttered under her breath. "Get what?" I asked, genuinely confused. "This isn't about your stupid driveway," she snapped suddenly, her anger flaring back to life. "It's about control. You think you can come in here, act like you're better than everyone else, and tell me what to do." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. "That's not true," I shot back, though doubt crept in. Had I come across as judgmental without realizing it? All I ever wanted was for you to respect my space. That's it. Karen shook her head, looking away. "You don't understand what it's like. Everyone here judges me. The way I dress, the way I live, everything. And when you started calling attention to me, dragging my name through the mud, it made things worse." I opened my mouth to argue but stopped myself. Was it possible I'd contributed to the problem without meaning to? I thought back to the whispers among the neighbors, the way people took sides. Maybe Karen wasn't entirely wrong. Still, none of that excused her behavior. "Look," I said finally, choosing my words carefully. "I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. That wasn't my intention. But you have to admit, parking in my driveway repeatedly wasn't okay either." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken emotions. Finally, Karen let out a bitter laugh. Fine. Whatever. I'll stop parking in your driveway. Happy now? It's not about being happy, I replied quietly. It's about finding some peace, for both of us. Karen didn't respond. Instead, she stood up and went inside, leaving me standing there alone. It wasn't the resolution I'd hoped for, but it was something, a small step toward ending the chaos. Over the next few weeks, things began to settle. Karen kept her car in her own driveway, and the neighborhood slowly returned to its quiet rhythm. Some neighbors still gave me wary looks, while others nodded politely when they saw me. Life wasn't perfect, but it was manageable. Yet, despite the calm, I couldn't shake the lingering unease. The conflict had changed me. And Willow Creek, forever. What started as a simple disagreement had spiraled into something far bigger, exposing cracks in the foundation of our community. Trust had been broken, friendships strained, and the illusion of harmony shattered. As I sat on my porch one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink, I realized something important. Sometimes, winning comes at a cost. Standing up for yourself is necessary, but so is knowing when to extend an olive branch. Karen and I might never be friends, but maybe that was okay. Maybe coexisting peacefully was enough. The HOA's ruling marked the official end of the driveway war, or so everyone thought. Karen stopped parking in my driveway, and for a while things seemed quieter. But the scars left behind weren't so easily erased. Willow Creek had changed, and not just for me or Karen. It felt like the entire neighborhood had been dragged into our conflict. Neighborhood gatherings, once lively and full of laughter, became awkward affairs. Conversations were stilted, with people carefully avoiding anything controversial. I noticed fewer invitations to barbecues or holiday parties, as if neighbors were afraid of being caught in the crossfire. Even Mrs. Thompson, who used to drop by with fresh-baked cookies, now waved politely from afar without stopping to chat. Karen kept to herself these days, rarely venturing outside except to water her plants or take out the trash. When we passed each other on the street, she'd shoot me icy glares but never said a word. It was almost worse than the arguments, this cold, silent tension that hung between us like an invisible wall. Despite everything, life went on. Ryan and I settled into a routine, finding comfort in small moments. Sipping coffee together on Saturday mornings, tending to our flower beds, or taking evening walks around the block. Still, the shadow of the past lingered. Every time I saw Karen's car parked neatly in her own driveway, I couldn't help but wonder what she was thinking. Was she plotting revenge, nursing old grudges, or had she simply moved on? One crisp autumn afternoon, I decided to take a walk through the park at the center of Willow Creek. The leaves crunched underfoot, and the air smelled faintly of wood smoke. As I rounded a bend in the path, I spotted Karen sitting alone on a bench, staring at the pond. She looked lost in thought, her usual bravado replaced by something softer, vulnerability, maybe. For a moment, I considered turning back, unwilling to risk another confrontation. But something held me there. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was guilt. Or maybe it was the realization that no matter how much we clashed, we were still part of the same community. I approached cautiously, stopping a few feet away. "Mind if I sit?" I asked, keeping my tone light. She glanced up, startled, then shrugged. "Suit yourself." I sat down, leaving plenty of space between us. For a while, neither of us spoke. The only sounds were the rustling leaves and the occasional splash of ducks diving into the water. "You know," Karen said finally, breaking the silence, "I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Her words caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "I just wanted to fit in," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "When you first moved here, I thought maybe we could be friends. But then everything spiraled out of control, and I didn't know how to fix it." Her honesty took me by surprise. "It wasn't all your fault," I replied slowly. I could have handled things differently too. Maybe if we talked sooner. Yeah, she interrupted, her lips curving into a faint smile. Maybe. We sat there for a little longer, sharing an unspoken understanding. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start, a fragile thread of connection, stretched thin but still intact. As I walked home later that day, I realized something important. Communities aren't built on perfection. They're shaped by struggles, misunderstandings, and the messy process of learning to coexist. Willow Creek wasn't the idyllic haven I'd imagined when we first moved in, and maybe that was okay. Because real life isn't perfect. It's complicated, frustrating, and beautiful all at once. Karen and I might never be close friends, but perhaps that wasn't the point. What mattered was finding a way to live side by side, respecting each other's boundaries, even when we didn't fully understand them. That night, as I turned off the porch light and headed inside, I felt a sense of quiet hope. The battle had been exhausting, but it had also taught me something valuable. Peace doesn't come from winning. It comes from choosing to move forward, one step at a time.